Today, I am excited to welcome my dear friend and a true soul sister, Francine DiGeorgio, to the show. Originally from New York and now a Santa Fe resident for over 17 years, Francine is an activist. She's an advocate. She's a healer, a teacher. She's an oracle, a promoter, a connector. And if you get a chance to know her, she is going to be one of the best friends that you will ever have. Like many healers, life experience with abuse, sexual abuse, mental illness, and drug abuse led her to self-healing and then becoming a certified Reiki master. She's a practitioner in something called Heart Thread, which we'll go into a little more later on, and in crystal healing, among many other modalities, actually, and not to mention her own innate and powerful gifts, which allow her to use her experiences to help other people through her business, Crystal Nation. Many people recognize Francine, who is also known by the spiritual name Yahira, as a white wolf who's paving the way of the new and of the more authentic experience here in this new earth. So without any further delay, I could go on and on about Francine, but I want to let her share her story with you. So let us all welcome to the show, Francine DiGeorgio. How are you doing today, my sister?
Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here on Unify Radio. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us today. We're so excited that you're going to be coming to Unify Fest this fall and offering and contributing to Unify Fest there. As people are going to learn during this radio interview, you've been offering and contributing to Unify Fest for many, many months ahead of time. So we'll share more about that as we go along, and we'll share more about your contributions there at the festival towards the end of the show. So first, let's just dive right in, and I want to ask you this question. Why has helping others and creating a healthier world for everyone become your life's mission? And if you can go on to elaborate even a little more, how did you transition from the wounded soul, from the wounded healer, into healing and working with others and making that your full-time job and your full-time mission here in this plane?
Well, awesome. I'm so glad that you asked me. I found myself telling this story a lot to many people, and so I usually start with when I was 9 years old, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, leukemia, and back in the 1980s, people just didn't really talk about cancer. So my father and my mother had made a decision not to tell their 4 children until the day that we all went to church. There was a priest who confided in all of us that my mother would die and become our guardian angel. At the age of 9, I didn't really understand what that meant, but I did see my sisters crying, and so of course I just joined in with them, and cried because they were crying. But I was really in shock, and I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't understand death and what was going to happen to my life after that. My father and my siblings took it really hard. We came home that day from the priest at home, and he had told us that my mother had died while I was in the priest's home. And so I really believe that my mission in life literally was created at that very moment, because for the next couple of years, life was very unstable. I had no supervision. My family really fell apart, and my father got lost into alcoholism and depression, and he literally isolated himself from us children by creating an apartment on the bottom half of his house and literally locking the door between the upstairs and the downstairs, leaving both my brother and I to fend for ourselves from that point on. And when I was 12 years old, I was gifted with my first channeled message from my guides. I remember that one of the things that I used to do, because nobody was around, was I used to just take long walks when I got upset, and I would talk to God. I didn't know who else I could talk to, so I used to just walk down the street and just tell God everything. And I remember I got a very direct message at that time that if I wanted to have any bit of a life, that I would have to go out and create it for myself. And it was at the age of 15 that my dad lost custody of me, and I went into a drug facility called Daytop in upstate New York. And I was there probated for the next 2 years. And it was there that I actually found out that I had a gift. I learned about emotions, and I suddenly realized that my feelings were the cause of my self-destructive behavior. And suddenly I opened up my heart, and I started to talk to my own peers in Daytop about my life. And suddenly the counselors at Daytop saw that I had a gift for being in my heart. And so they had asked me to speak on stage of many high schools and colleges. And I told my life story to many of the young students that would listen to me. And right after, every time I would speak, I remember that I would have a long line of young girls that were just dying to speak to me and share their stories. So I believe that when I came out of rehab at the age of 18, I knew that I had a gift for talking to others and making a difference in other people's lives, sharing my own life story. So I started working with at-risk youth. And I believe that growing up without supervision, growing up without any stability or security, guidance, love, nurturance, I didn't have the tools that I needed to learn how to take care of myself or love myself. And it created a very long life all throughout my 20s and 30s up until the age of 40 that I suffered from addiction, drug abuse, violence. I was subjected to domestic violence, and all of these things led me to understanding human suffering on a very, very deep level. It was almost as if that every time I experienced something that was leading to human suffering, it was because I was learning something about our planetary suffering. I really, every time something horrible would happen in my life, I would always have that moment that it would happen, that I would say, now I know what it feels like to be raped. Now I know what it feels like to be beaten. Now I know what it feels like to be almost dead. Now I know what it feels like to drug overdose. And this is the reason why I think throughout my whole life I was just learning a lot. I believe that I had a special mission from God to learn all that I could about human suffering so that I could be the voice for those who did not have a voice. And I believe that at the age of 40, I was living back in New York trying to rehash things with my father when I fell back into my addiction and drinking. So every 2 years of my life, I would go on and off of drug use. And at the age of 40, I ended up getting falsely arrested. And suddenly at that moment, I remember Archangel Michael coming down and asking me to choose a side. It was 2012. I was 40. I asked God how I would turn my whole life over to God and to be truly of service to the people, to myself, to the planet. And he literally led me to, Googling indigo kids to discover what was really going on the planet as the energies were increasing and people were suddenly waking up and getting into their hearts. In 2012, a lot of conscious transformational festivals were just popping up around the United States, and I found my first one and had started to become of service as an oracle, as a healer, as a teacher. I just took all the time and energy that I had and started to share all of my own personal life experiences with those that would share the same kind of pain that I was suffered from, and literally see that I was able to make a difference. And it was then that I decided that I would start my own business, Crystal Nation. One of the things that I've loved since I was a child has been taking walks in nature and the mountains and stones, rocks, gemstones. And I started to collect these gemstones in nature out here in New Mexico, and I started to counsel people or do tarot readings. And at the end of the readings, I would always gift everybody a rock. And I suddenly saw that the rock was always a symbol of my connection to them. The healing or the teaching or the release that was experienced between me and another was actually a really heartfelt connection. And that stone of the earth was a gift from the earth, you know. And I really felt in about 2 years ago that maybe I should start doing this for work. And I had a couple of my friends really urge me to start doing readings publicly, where I was really scared to come out of the quote-unquote closet as a healer because I didn't really believe in myself. And I think that working these conscious festivals really gave me the ability to really find who I am and utilize my gifts and talents and actually share them with the earth and not be afraid to express my heart, my truth, my wisdom, whereas most of my life I just didn't know who I was. And so I really believe that my life experiences have led up into who I am today. I definitely don't know if this was a choice or just a God-given mission. So I really feel compelled to assist others in consciously waking up right now, to open up their hearts, to stand in their personal power, and to speak their personal truth. I definitely take a lot of time all throughout these last couple of years to empower our younger generations, you know, both men and women, to be able to utilize their gifts and talents for the highest good of all. And this is where I am now. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That was so beautifully and eloquently expressed. Thank you so much. And it really, you know, it shows, I feel like it was both. You said whether it was a choice or, you know, a God-given mission, and you know, based on what you've just shared, it really feels like it was definitely both, you know, because it was a God-given mission that at one point you made a choice to say, okay, this is what life's shown me so far. This is what I need to do. This is where I need to show up. This is where my strengths are. This is what I've survived. And if I can survive this, I can help anybody, you know. So that is amazing. Wow. Oh, wow. I'm just taking it in. Thank you, Francine. Well, everybody, I am very much enjoying this, as I'm sure you are. We're going to take a really quick break, and we're going to come right back. So please don't go anywhere. Francine DiGeorgio. And Francine, I think that everybody can hear and understand now that one of your greatest passions is inspiring and motivating people by sharing what you've learned over the years. And we definitely share that passion with you here at Unify Radio. And one thing we love to do is to gift the listeners with 3 tips that are maybe practical, that are maybe somewhat simple, that people can actually use and start putting into action in their lives right now. There's a lot of people struggling right now. There's a lot of changes happening right now. And you've had a lot of incredible life experiences that you've been strong enough to move through, and you've transmuted and transformed all of that into, it sounds to me like you've always lived very authentically, that's always been who you are, and you've always had an idea of who you are to a certain extent, because you're a very, very strong person. But you know, many people are looking to live that way now, to be more in their hearts, to be more authentic, and to be able to discover and to figure out what they have to share. And so maybe you can share some tips with us today based on your experiences as to how people can kind of get into that space.
Yes, great. I'm glad that you asked, especially now during the times that we're in, you know, 2016, astrologically speaking, we're definitely having the planet Neptune have a very strong influence of ripping any illusions off of us. And so as I read for a living and travel around the country, one of the main things that I'm approaching in my counseling or guidance is that a lot of truths are being exposed. And I really believe it's very important right now that we all learn a few very great things. And one of them is to get in touch with your higher self. And one might ask, what is your higher self? And the easiest way for me to answer that would be to say, have you ever heard that little voice inside your head? And most people would say yes. Well, there is a guidance that we all have, and it is our higher self. And I really highly suggest at this time right now, here in 2016, that we, the people, stop looking outside of ourselves for the answers. Stop going to other people to tell us what to do or to give us guidance. My job, even as an oracle and a tarot reader, I believe is even limited because it is my hope that we can get everybody to get in touch with their higher self. And it's a really easy practice that you can do, starting off with the beginning or the middle or the end of your day, but just taking a moment out to just sit quietly and to take some deep, deep, deep breaths and ask yourself to connect with that higher self of yours, and to establish a relationship daily would be the biggest tip that I could give right now. We're not being asked to look outside of ourselves anymore, and it's about time that the illusion of seeking outside of ourselves comes to an end. So the other thing that I would highly suggest as a tip for right now in 2016 is to stand in your personal power and know your personal truth and speak it. Most people have a very difficult time speaking their truth. They seem to hang out in rooms or circles at their job, at home, in their social circles, and they may be subjected to hearing things that are not their personal truth. And it's really important right now where people are really out of alignment, where they may be projecting, where they may be attacking, where people just stop for a moment, take a deep breath, and understand that it is time that we speak our truth. So if something is not in accordance with who you are, it is time to speak up about that. If there is something that is out of harmony with the planet and you see something that is not fair or correct, it is time to speak up. The only way that we're going to make a great change on this planet is if we use our voice. And I believe that many of the human beings that are on the planet right now have been here before, and we've all had our voices silenced. And I really believe that every single person on this planet right now is one of the great ones who has come here at this time of this planet is changing into the new energies of the new earth, that this paradigm is setting forth a new way for us to be, which is in the heart, consciously standing in our truth and in our hearts, connected to our own higher self. And I believe that that in itself will change the world if we can start doing this. And the third tip that I would highly suggest right now at 2016, based on many other astrologers, myself, and other leaders and healers around the United States and around the globe right now, is to get sober, people. Toxins of all sorts. We're talking about alcohol. We're talking about drugs, even marijuana, cigarettes, food, the dairy, the sugar, the caffeine, the red meat, the processed food. I really believe that we have allowed ourselves to even become toxic by watching TV, by listening to the news, by buying products and that are completely toxic with chemicals that can harm ourselves and our planet and the animals. We really need to take into consideration what we're putting into our bodies and how we're actually walking on this planet. So I really believe right now that the toxins and drugs are something that we could really start to eliminate on a daily basis. I'm not saying so full force, 100% sober and to detox all at the same time, although there are people who do that. I'm just saying that right now in 2016, I'm being told that drug use and alcohol use have actually hit its peak. There have been many deaths around the United States in the last couple of years, but in the last couple of weeks, it's been really extreme, and there is a very strong message out there right now to not try to go into escapism. I highly suggest that all of you that are listening, if you want to go into the new energies of the new earth, it's really important that we stay as clear as we can so that we can stand in our personal truth and express it, and so that we can connect to our higher selves. When we're not sober and we're using a lot of toxins, they pollute our clarity and we can't think or be focused. So that would be my third greatest tip that I have to share.
Those are amazing tips. I know everybody took notes. I did.
You're cute.
Well, and it's amazing the way that you know, I mean, they're so beautifully ordered too, and I know you channel this information, but you know, the fact that you say take it into consideration, and And we see, we are in some troubling times. All one has to do is speak with some people in their communities or look around them. I mean, you don't even have to go to mass media to sense that we're all being challenged right now. And, it might be a difficult time to get sober, but as Francine mentioned, the worst decision we could make is to try to escape it at this time. And so your first tip to get in touch with your higher self and to ask for that guidance and to sit quietly and take deep breaths with pure intention for that guidance so you can take that next step. You can do that throughout the entire day and only take a moment here and a moment there to kind of ground yourself and get back into it. Because once you get centered again, you don't have to escape anymore. You give yourself the opportunity to actually be with whatever it is you're trying to run away from. And when you do that, you can see clearly how strong you are. You can see clearly how you've really got this. You weren't put here unequipped to deal. These are just modern day distractions that we've been handed, and they're not serving us anymore. And that tip number 2, to stand in your personal power. So it literally, it naturally leads you to that. So when you do that, when you trust, you get in touch with your higher self, it actually takes you to that next step, which shows you, okay, I've got this. I can handle this. And that helps you through step 3 to get sober, to, stop distracting yourself with TV and gossip and complaining and Facebook and all of the ways we do it. We all have our little crutches, our little things we reach for. So that is very, very, very powerful. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, do you want to add anything else to it before we go to our next break?
Nope.
All right. Well, stick with us because we're going to take another really quick break, and we will be right back. Today, you're having the rare opportunity to get downloaded and to connect with Francine DiGeorgio, who is one of my very best friends in the world. Our friendship has been short in this plane. We haven't known each other for all that long, but at the same time, we've known each other for eons, and it's been an ageless, timeless, and amazing connection. And I think that pretty much everybody who connects with Francine feels this way. I know I can speak personally for myself, and I'm sure many out there can share the same report, I guess, for lack of better words. But Francine sharing with us about how to inspire and motivate the world, how to live your truth, how to speak your truth, how to stand in your truth, and how to really make a difference. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, she is going to be sharing with us at Unify Fest in many ways, and I'm going to let her elaborate on how she's been sharing leading up and elaborate more on what she's going to be sharing there. But I will share with you that she does have a booth in our Healing Sanctuary for Crystal Nation. She's going to have a whole crew assisting her there, sharing all of her offerings, which include, as I mentioned before, the channeled readings, Reiki, heart thread, crystal healings, and jewelry that she's made, beautiful stones and crystals that she's actually gone out and mined herself and rock foraged herself and put her energy into. She doesn't just find a stone on the ground and hand it to somebody. They come to her for healing themselves, and they share their healing with her, and then she brings that forth to you by intuiting what it is that is, your higher self speaks to Francine, and you guys have this great, amazing conversation, and she will share with you so many things. So why don't you share with us maybe some of the highlights, first, how you kind of got involved in not only Unify Fest, but other transformational festivals, some of what you have been doing for Unify Fest, which is just priceless and invaluable and amazing, and maybe a little bit of what you're personally excited about experiencing once you get there, outside of all of the things that you're bringing, all the things you're sharing, because I know there's some stuff that excites you too. So maybe let's go into that, and then you can afterward give us a tease of what Crystal Nation has in store for people.
Yeah, great. I'm really glad you asked me these questions. Unify Festival. I was introduced in February when I met Clementine at a beautiful party for a dear friend who actually heart-threaded me. So how did I get involved in the Conscious Festivals is kind of like what I was telling you earlier. In 2012, you know, I fell back into drug addiction and I got falsely arrested. And in that moment, I literally was, you know, divined by the Archangel Michael, who asked me to choose a side. And it was very quickly, right after that, within like 2 weeks, I became an advocate for the mentally ill. I was diagnosed with being bipolar, with PTSD. I have a long, long history of trauma in my life, and I've also been able to tell my life story as an advocate for the mentally ill on stage here at the Lensic in Santa Fe, New Mexico for NAMI, which is known as the National Alliance of Mental Illness. I became an advocate for the mentally ill because I didn't really believe in mental illness, but I was diagnosed with it. And the reason why I allowed myself to go through the programs of becoming certified advocates for the mentally ill is because I myself knew that there was a better way than taking pharmaceutical drugs. So I decided in 2012 to get sober. I gave up cigarettes and alcohol and drugs, my sex addiction. I was a kleptomaniac. I wasn't authentic about anything about myself. I didn't love myself. So I had to turn my whole life over to God and become of service. And I literally was led to the 3 Days of Light Gathering, which happens out in Asheville, North Carolina. And it became a platform in that year, 2014.
That's Scott Love's show, right?
Yep. And so I went to the 3 Days of Light Gathering in 2014 after Scott Love actually made me an ambassador in Santa Fe for his own global organization called Emergence Earth. Emergence Earth is a nonprofit organization which is like a web directory for all people, places, and things that are authentic, that have integrity. Services and products that are not toxic, where people are providing services that are full of integrity and heart. So I started to promote people, places, and things in 2013 as an ambassador for Emergence Earth, and was invited 2014 to join them at the 3 Days of Light Gathering. When I arrived on the grounds, it was the first time I have ever seen a conscious transformational festival. And I tell you that as soon as I got onto the grounds, I remember my whole body just going into a kundalini vibrational yum. And I felt my whole body resonate with this bubble of love that I had never in my whole life ever experienced. And I have been very abused and disconnected. So when my brothers and sisters gathered around the porch, I'll never forget wondering what was going on with the inside of my body. And I was so scared and so insecure. I remember God telling me, share what you think and you feel to the youth. And I started there. And once I spoke out my fears and my insecurities to the youth that were standing around me, they all joined in with that they felt the same way. And it was one of the most amazing moments I ever had in my life, where I felt like I finally came home. And for the whole weekend, I was actually taken into workshops like the Merkaba breath meditation. And I went to a workshop called Into the Void, where we would literally go into the void and release all that was holding us back. And I remember activating my DNA. And I remember sitting in crystal bowl healings and really feeling the vibrations of the sound that I've never heard before in my entire life. And I cried, not because I was sad or I was hurt. I cried of deep, deep, deep love and joy, and a peace that I've never felt in my life. I made so many connections with brothers and sisters who are still my friends today. In fact, that was the beginning of the 3 Days of Light Gathering, was the beginning of my conscious festivals. I suddenly joined on with a friend of mine, Amanda Amethyst, who has the Goddess Temple. She's one of the crystal bowl healers. She's a high priestess. She activates others using the Mary Magdalene medicine and training that she's been trained with. And so basically she asked me to join her Goddess Temple, and we started to do conscious festivals. And the first one was Zen Awakening, that I actually worked at. And I was being invited to one conscious festival after another, where I ended up going on road and I actually got my mission completely in 2015, where I was to work with youth, play music, and to do the heart thread, which is a modality that I do where two people sit in a chair, I sit behind you, I utilize my hands that are Reiki, and I just move my hands from the top of your body to the bottom of your body, scanning you, and then I bring us into a heartfelt meditation that's a guided visualization, bringing in the angels, and then I just connect us heart to heart, where the person and I, through our breath, are guided into connection of the heart. And once we get to that place of peace, I then can channel messages of your heart. And then once I receive the message, I'll state it. It might sound something like, I am now ready for love. And I will state it. And then the person is used in their own voice to repeat the affirmation or the statement, the channeled message. And it's in those moments that the people are receiving the channeled messages, when they use their own voice and repeat the message, that's where the healing begins. It's not me that's a healer. I am here as a channel. Yahira is my spiritual name. It means the enlightened one. I was born with the gift of an oracle since I was a child. I didn't learn how to utilize it until I was like in my teenage years after detox. After I went to rehab and started to learn about emotions and stuff, I was finally had a dream when I was like 23 years old. And in my dream, I had a woman who gifted me an oracle deck and said to use this deck to assist me, myself and others on the planet. And that very day, I went to a friend's house where my friend literally took out the deck that I still have today, the Tower of the Witches, and said, I have a feeling that you know how to use these. My grandmother brought them in Salem, Massachusetts. And I was 23 at that time, so I was able to, in these conscious festivals, tap back into my oracle and use my tarot. And I just didn't know how good I was, but I just went to be of service, like God was showing me that I would be on a journey to healing myself and healing others, and that it would be a really fruitful journey of obtaining all the information that I have in the last 4 years of going to these conscious festivals and working with the spiritual community. I've been recognized as a promoter, as a manifestor generator, as a connector, as a teacher, a healer, and I've been able to take these gifts back here to New Mexico. In January, I relocated back here from being on the road for so long. I was on the road for 6 months of last year, just doing one conscious festival after another. And so when I came home in January, I ended up taking off in February, and I met Clementine. And it was just, it wasn't about them hiring me, that was for sure. It was about me promoting Unify Festival happening here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where we were unifying all colors, all creeds, all religions. I literally had a vision, when I was first moved here in '99, that one day we would all gather around a medicine wheel, unifying. I have it written since I was 15, this vision of actually having my own nonprofit organization that would have a Native American spiritual foundation, where we would have a mandala or a medicine wheel in the center of this nonprofit organization, where we would then learn how to heal from our traumas and learn from social emotional education is basically what I teach now. It's a modality that we wish to implement into public schools, and it's based on empowering people to know about how to deal with your problems and how to resolve any of your conflicts, how to get connected to your higher self, how to get connected to your heart, how do you love yourself, what are the 21 basic human needs, how do you fulfill them, how do you have healthy relationships with yourself and other people and the planet. And so this became the ultra theme of my life. And so when I heard that Unify Festival was happening, where we were actually going to be unifying all colors, creeds, and religions, a sustainable festival, leaving the land better than we came, it was posing to be probably one of the best festivals I've ever heard of, because this is the first festival that I believe we are donating a couple of dozen tickets to the Native American New Mexico Pueblo Indians, where we are donating to compost toilets, to the grounds of Los Golondrinas, where we're having our festival, where we're offering a fourth night, at the very last night, to sleep over and have permaculture specialists help us churn the soil over the next day and plant trees with our community. This was going to be the first festival that is proposing to be alcohol-free and drug-free, and really give me the platform to actually do my work in a setting where I believe it's becoming more or less like a beautiful platform for education, and it mixes in all the music, all the performing arts, and it really, this is going to be one of the festivals that I wanted to promote, whether I was getting paid or not, because this is where my home is. Santa Fe, New Mexico is that place for me. You know, I was diagnosed with bipolar and PTSD. I have to say, living here in New Mexico, it's beautiful blue skies, no high, tall buildings, obstructed my view of the sun or the sky or the moon, and the stars are so bright at night. Everything in nature is so beautiful here. This land is really rich with indigenous culture. I am Mexican, half Mexican, my mother was, so I really resonate with the culture here. And I really believe that by unifying all colors, creeds, and religions and asking them to come here to Santa Fe, New Mexico to join us at Unify Festival is an actual opportunity for us to reset the button planetarily on all of our past history of violence and abuse and abandonment and of just being unhealthy. And I really believe that the cultures of the Spanish, the Mexican, the Native American that are home to here have also had their own differences amongst their own cultures. And I really believe that we, at this point in 2016, just need a reset button. And we need to come clean about who we all are, what we've all suffered, and just share our story. And so that each person that gets to share their story, when you listen to other people's stories, it literally enriches your life and your story, because we all feel alone, and we're not alone. And we've been separated for a long time by the corruption of government, by all the lies that we've been told, by all the things that we've been fed. The people are no longer, we are fed up. We are fed up with all the lies and all the bullshit. It's time that we come together. So Unify, I felt in my heart and soul, was going to be one of those grand festivals this year in 2016 that was going to make a predominant difference. And suddenly I was asked by, Nathan and Clementine, you, who recognized me for running around and promoting you guys anyway, and asked me to join in and become the manager for the street team. I started my business in 2015, Crystal Nation, where I rockhound gemstones, mainly in New Mexico, but around the country when I also travel. And I make intuitive gemstone jewelry, wire wraps with angel wing selenite that I get from all the beautiful lands here. I do not dig. I don't mine. I basically collect. I am literally guided by the angels, and I walk in prayer and in ceremony. It is a ceremony for me to collect. And I say my prayers.
You're gifted by the earth, and you redirect that that stone to somebody who can use it and take that energy out.
Yeah, so I basically go out into the ground and I pray for it takes me about 4 to 5 hours at the places that I go to collect. And the whole time I'm out there, I'm praying for the ancestors of the land, for the people who are here. I pray for our 7 generations, the ones before us, with us, and after us. And I really take what I do into sacred ceremony seriously, because when I actually get to sit down in business and do my oracle readings and sell my jewelry, I also do the oracle readings. So a lot of times when I'm done doing the readings, when I offer those people the stones, it's something about the energy in which I collected it, and it's about the energy from which it was collected. So it's usually sacred places that I go. And I do not take from the earth that which I shouldn't, and I always check in with my higher self on every single piece I collect. So I do that. I opened up my business just last year, but I didn't successfully start having income come in until this year, where I have a website that is just being recreated right now for Crystal Nation, and I am offering tarot readings and the heart thread readings at Crystal Nation at Unify Grounds. And I think I'm also offering, I have a friend of mine who will be standing in with me. His name is Brandon Kimball, and he will be offering crystal healing. So he'll be doing crystal healings, and I will be doing oracle readings. I wanted to basically hire somebody who is a lot younger than me, who is a crystal child. He's an indigo child, and he has just literally came out of school, and he has the whole world ahead of him right now. And I've been told by God that Crystal Nation was going to be a business where I took in many kids from around the United States at different times, kind of like an apprentice, sort of speak thing, and that I would train them, get them under my wing, and promote them, and literally give them the platform to grow. Because, you know, when I was younger, I was gifted in many, many, many ways. And I just had nobody to show me how to, like, create a business or how to be professional or how to take myself seriously or anybody who would actually take the time, actually. That's the main thing right here. The reason why I am who I am is because nobody ever took the time or even cared. Like, I literally grew up with no love. So at this very point in life, I am nothing but love because I see that love is all around me. And I am so excited that I'm going to be working with these crystal indigo kids who I've been seeing all around the United States at all these conscious festivals as I've been promoting and going to these festivals for Unified Festival. I've been having a lot of conversations with many different people from all genres, all ages, all races. And you'd be surprised at, like, how many of them are being heart-threaded into this conscious community just because somebody really cares, you know. And I don't necessarily, I'm not the kind of person that always needs money. I do a lot of barter and trade. I am the new energy of the new earth, and I am already standing in that new model of sustainability where I don't even really fool with a lot of money. I do a lot of barter and trade because I believe that our business can actually elevate to a place of not dependent so much on money, because money is just a dollar bill that was created. And we really don't need billions of dollars to build a school. We just need the people to build it. And there must be good food, good clean water for all.
The top 3 tips that Francine shared with us earlier, just to give you a little recap on that and a reminder, get in touch with your higher self. And as you heard Francine talk about, you know, she gave you the ways to do it, to sit quietly and take deep breaths and ask, you know, with a pure intention to connect with your higher self. But, you know, if you're having trouble with that, it's okay. I mean, for many of us, this is very new. And so, you know, get in touch with Francine. She talked about Heart Thread and sitting down with you and actually doing that with you. So that's something that she can help you with. So, you know, try it yourself or get in touch with her. You don't have to wait till Unify Fest. You can reach out at any time. Number 2, stand in your personal power and know your personal truth and speak it. You know, notice where we're projecting and things like that, and really begin to use your voice in an authentic way. Because we've all had our voices silenced, which leads us to projecting and leads us to, you know, those kinds of energies. So don't be hard on yourself about it, but just start to notice, and again, you know, make that pure intention with your heart to be able to really be in your truth, really be in your personal power, and then use that voice to voice that truth. And then number 3, to get sober. Get sober from all of the things that are holding you back from stepping into your highest version. So it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be cigarettes, it could be junk food, but it could also be excessive exercise. It could also be sex addiction. It could also be stealing things. It could also be TV and distraction and, you know, Facebook and commenting and gossiping and all those things. So, you know, make an intention to get yourself sober and out of those kinds of behaviors so that you can have more space, really, in your energetic field to show up as who you are, really, you know, and truly, and really, really give that gift to the world.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You're here.
So, if you want to find Francine right away, you can go to crystalnation.com, or you can go to, and this might even be a faster way, go to facebook.com/crystal-nation, and you'll find Francine there.